You found us. I'm so glad you did, but I am sorry that you had to. Who are we? I'll tell you what we're not. We're not old, we're not boring, and we're not giving up. So come on into our Widow Circle where trauma meets humor, and we remind you that you can not only survive, but thrive. This is Every Widow Thing. Welcome back to another episode of Every Widow Thing. How long have we known each other now? I think it's been
5 years.
I think it's 5 years.
Once I came in, I guess when the group was complete. It was 5 years ago. When the
cherry
last
on
piece
top.
of
Thank
the
you, Hunter,
puzzle.
for bringing
Right.
us together.
Exactly. And I do feel like our guys are in the room with us. We've got some candles lit here with their initials on it. So we feel like they're in the room with us as well, which may be why it's so hot in here.
It is
It's
a little hot.
toasty.
When I was thinking about what the slogan or the motto or whatever would be for this, I kept coming back to survive and thrive because that is what we're doing.
After my husband's death, I felt super alone. I didn't know anyone who had lost their husband young. And when Lacey approached me, it was just like, it was literally like that image of the life raft being like the life ring being thrown out in the ocean. No one really understands what it's like until they've been through it. And I don't think it's normalized in society. Young
Yes.
widows, we're brushed aside. We're swept under the rug, or hurry up and get married again, move on with your life, get over it. And I don't think people are like looking at what that really means.
Long term.
Yeah, what does that mean for someone that's gone through it? What does that mean for their family dynamic? What does that mean for their kids? What does that mean for their friendships? The whole 9 yards. And so
That's why it was hard when Oliver died. I went to a grief group, and unfortunately, the grief group was not helpful because most of them in there, 70s, 80s. So, and one even said, "You're young enough to find someone else." Well, that was the wrong thing to say to me, and probably to you three, too.
Yeah, I think we've all heard that.
None of us really met our people through that.
Lacey started it off because unfortunately she has been a widow the longest amount of time.
But I'm still not old, just so you know.
No, I like to say we're not your grandma's widow, but then Keira's like, that makes no sense.
I mean, it's just my background in publishing.
And grandma?
I mean, not in my background in grandma.
My grandma background.
We're not your typical widow.
No, I think so.
Exactly.
It did. Lacey was on her own for a while, and she reached out to me. Horrible way that she lost her husband, just like mine, in their prime, amazing guys that we were like madly in love with. And we just had so much in common. And so when, unfortunately, I heard about Holly, someone reached out to me.
But how did
But
you
I
and
had already
Holly
met-
meet?
I'd met you.
Yeah, we met through a girl that I used to work with.
Right. So what happens, and if you're a widow, you probably know this already, and even anyone dealing with grief or any situation, you try to connect people that are having similar experiences. And I think that our friend groups all recognized that they couldn't understand, they couldn't necessarily help us. So they started helping connect us. And the counselor at my child's middle school,
Who I was friends with.
and she reached out to me and she was like, there's another mother who's gone through the same thing. I would love to connect you. And I got Holly's phone number and I called like immediately that day. And I was like, hey, so my husband's dead and I know your husband's dead.
And it had been 5 months.
Yeah, it had not been a very long time. I say the words dead, died. I don't pussyfoot around it.
I hate
not
the word passed away.
Yeah. Oh, girl. What did he pass?
What? Yeah. What?
Not
did
a
he pass?
test, not his
gas.
expiration date. No. all the regular words that people use because they're uncomfortable with
Right.
that, I don't like. I just say dead, died. So I'm sure Holly was like, oh my God. But I was like,
No,
my husband's
well,
dead.
I was asked to help you.
Yes.
I'm not sure what I'm going to look like, but I'll show up.
And then we went to coffee. And
Fuck.
so
I-
when did you and Holly meet?
So people reached out to me in the spring when the accident happened, which was on the same road as our accident. And I mean, I just loved your energy. You're way more low key than I am. Like I'm the extrovert, you're
Maybe
the
a
introvert.
little bit.
But you just were just a great person, and I was super excited to just try to help you in any way that I could. You were definitely just full of questions, And I didn't have great answers for all of it because I was kind of still figuring it out for
I think you
myself.
did. And I think you showed up at the right time. But
Yeah.
I remember talking about, what do I do for Christmas? And I was like,
And
I
I was
think I
like,
want to just
travel.
leave town. And
And
you're
you're
like,
like,
leave town.
You're like, I think I want to plan a trip. Absolutely plan a trip. Get the F out of Dodge.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did too.
So,
It's just not fun being in your house. That first Christmas.
no.
I remember very vividly thinking to myself, I want to know what this looks like a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now. And I want to find the people that are doing it the way I hope I will do it, because I did not want this horrible tragedy to be in vain. I wanted to learn something from it. I wanted to grow from it. And I didn't want it to destroy me. And it could easily do that. And I think the three of you are the type of widows that I wanted to be. We are going to introduce ourselves to hopefully other widows and show them what this looks like and how you can not only survive, but thrive.
I hated that how we met, but I love that I had people who got it.
Yes.
Because up until that time, the only person that I had that got it was the therapist. And I thought that was kind of pathetic, especially when it has to do with your family. They see you a certain way as a person who handles everything. Well, it's hard to handle things when something like that happens to you and it changes everything. So I became different and they didn't respond to it well.
So I think for me, it was about finding myself again because your identity is so wrapped up in
a couple,
your marriage, your kids, your family unit. Where was I without Frank? And it took time to rediscover
or redefine.
Right.
Yeah.
So one last thing, I think it would be great if we gave one tip, one thing that you reached for. What was one thing that you did? If a widow came to you today and said, I don't know how to get through the day. Like, what did you do?
Relied on my friends.
A good therapist. Sometimes you have to figure out who that is.
I had to give myself grace when I snapped at the kids or wasn't handling or wasn't coping. I just had to be kind to myself.
It's a good one.
I would say feel the feelings. So if that means screaming in your car or like me, crying in the closet, trying to stifle it just fucking keeps it there longer.
One of my son's therapists said, you got to feel it to heal it.
I love
Yeah.
that. I cried in the closet too because I didn't want the kids to see with you with the
I
bathtub.
did the same thing.
I didn't want the kids to
yeah.
see me falling apart.
You know what I
Sorry,
find
Tyler.
interesting is that the worst emotion was anger. That's the most repelling. I always say if someone's screaming on the outside, imagine how they feel on the inside. But yet when you're a widow, the one thing nobody talks about, they see you sad and you're crying. But I felt rage.
That is so interesting that you say that because I follow, I'm going to get her name wrong, Dr. Edith Inger. She was a Holocaust survivor and she talks a lot about grief and surviving trauma. And one of the things that she says is there will be rage. Don't deny it. That is part of the process and it is okay and we need to normalize it.
But imagine this though, I would go to friends and I would just be angry. I wasn't yelling at them. I was just angry about my life. But I found that there were some friendships that I lost as a result of it because they couldn't handle the anger. I remember hearing one friend said it was too much for her. And so I'm supposed to minimize the pain. I mean, rage is a huge part of it. And to deny that means you are stifling it or it's going to come out in other ways.
Most people are uncomfortable with uncomfortableness.
Yes.
And so I find myself, and I'm sure you guys have felt this too, of toning it down. Or look, when people say, I'm sorry for your loss, what's your first response? It's okay. Thank you. No, it's fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know,
Putting
Good,
amenities.
we're good.
Putting
It's gonna be
amenities.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why they're like, "Oh, where's your husband? He's dead. Let's all deal with it."
But I've
Yeah.
I've learned to say this though. It was funny. I've had a long time to think about it, and I didn't handle it the way that I wanted to in those first years. And I was kind of mad at myself because I felt like I was minimizing my pain to make them comfortable. When the reality is, I wanted to say it's awful. It sucks. And not only sucks is that I wasn't just sad, I was angry for what he was missing, what my child was missing, and what I was missing. And I had the hardest time. I don't know about you guys. I had the hardest time for what I was missing. I felt sorrier for my son. I felt sorrier for my husband. And the reason I couldn't deal with my own because it meant dealing with my own.
Yeah, that's gonna have
I'm
to
still
be
dealing with my own. I never think about me, and I'm working on that even now in therapy.
Because it's
The
easier.
anger, where do you go with the anger? What do you do with it? How
not
are
pretty.
we allowed to live in that state?
The idea is that when you feel a feeling fully, then it naturally goes through you and you can release it. Now, it's up to us. We can hold on to it, just like we try to hold on to the good stuff, we hold on to the bad stuff. But the idea, the way things are supposed to naturally flow is it's like a wave on the beach. It comes in, it washes over you, and then it goes out. So that's anger, that's sadness, that's joy, that's every feeling.
But sometimes it like instead of getting angry with the person asking, I've decided to say, I'm going to stop you right there. Because someone said something like when they were going through a divorce, they said, I know it's not a death. And I
Mm.
said, I'm going to stop you right there. There is no need to compare. Pain is pain, grief is grief. I'm going to respect yours if you'll respect mine. And whatever feeling you're feeling, I'm happy to sit with you in it. And so I hope, and I think that's what we've done for each other. I'm okay with someone calling and just unleashing a beast if they needed to. It's not at me. Don't take it personally. It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's actually about them and their feelings. If you can learn, I wish people could learn to not make it about themselves.
Yes, and I love what you said about I will sit with you in it because that's all we want. You can't make it go away.
No.
Nothing you say is going to make it better, but knowing that we're not alone in it, I'm going to sit with you in this and you're safe to feel whatever you need to feel. That is the gift. That is the gift. We are so smart.
It only took me 11 years to figure
I
it
know.
out.
Took me
And-
a few years as well.
And it takes a group
And a
like
village.
this. It
No.
takes a village
Mhm.
in every way. It takes a village.
At least we
So,
have one.
We do. And
we
now
hope
we're
that
inviting.
they will join us too.
Yes, we're inviting you into our village.
And just to inspire people to try to connect, try to find out who else might be in your community going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And you can just form a
Call
group
your
like we did.
school, call your church, call a grief support group.
My
Eve-
Healing, well, it's now the Grief Center and the Christie Center. They're two great places
In
in Austin that deal with grief. And that's not just death. It's also divorce. It's also loss of a child, a husband, another family member. So those are great organizations that I know about.
Agreed. We can't bring your person back, but we can help you navigate
And bring yourself back.
your new normal. Yeah.